Hello, BookTube. Who's up for a mail haul? A gigantic, monstrous, exhausting mail haul. And one that ends with a box. It's so big it might not fit in a video. So let's get right to it. We'll start with this skinny thing here. What is this? Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, this comes out in April. It's called American Originality Essays on Poetry. Sign me up. It's by Louise Gluck. I guess she's good. I don't know anything about the poets who've interested her throughout her career, such as Rilke, Pinsky, Dobbins. As I've mentioned before, Open Letters Monthly, where I have the honor to be the managing editor at the literary journal, we have a poetry person. So I have a perfect place. I don't know where I'm going to put these books. There's so many of them. I have a perfect place to send such a volume. I don't have to make any sense out of it myself. Okay, the next one is by Joseph Kertész. He's born in Hungary. The Afterlife of Stars. Two children playing in front of the Eiffel Tower. As Russian tanks roll through the cobblestone streets of Budapest and shots ring out, young Robert and Attila Beck, inseparable brothers, peer from the boot of a toppled statue of Stalin at the first grisly signs of revolution. The year is 1956. Okay. Alright, so let's move on. Where am I going to put these things? If I put them there, they're going to fall over. If I put them over here, they're on top of my dog. What if we make a platform? She'd have said, agreed with that. If she doesn't, she'll bolt, and they'll go all over the place. Let's see what's next here. Okay. This is The Ritual by Rob Doyle, who is young. And who has a blurb from Jeff Dyer, a tremendous writer. Jeff Dyer wouldn't know a tremendous writer if he used a water diviner with one of those divided sticks to try and find one in an open field. So take your blurb with a grain of salt. This is a young man in a dark depression roams the vast, formless landscape of a Dublin industrial park, where he meets a vagrant in the grip of a dangerous ideology. A woman fleeing a breakup finds herself taking part in an unusual sleep experiment. A man obsessed with Nietzsche clings desperately to his girlfriend's red shoes. And whatever happened to Killian Turner, Ireland's vanished literary outlaw? Okay, so is this guy Irish? Yes, he is. He was born in Dublin. And he wrote a book. Did he write a book? Yes. Here Are the Young Men. I don't think I read that. So I don't know what to make of them. Short stories. Irish short stories. Contemporary Irish short stories. All right. I haven't had a Steve book yet. There's plenty more to go. There's no way this won't have one. Let's see what the next one is. The Moment of Truth is what it's called, by Damien McNichol. A novel about the first female American matador. After a trip to a bullfight with her beloved father, Kathleen Boyle spent her childhood playing matador with a red blanket and the family dog. Now a young art student in 1950s Texas, with a disapproving fiancé and a practical-minded mother to contend with, she spends most of her free time at a local bullfighting enthusiasts club and making secret trips down to Mexico to try her hand at amateur bull rings. Okay. She begins selling out arenas as the Texan goddess, La Diosa Tejana. But while her manager gets rich, Kathleen's pay remains pitiful and her instructor's control over all aspects of her life remains absolute. She faces a moment of truth. Will she always be a vehicle for another person's success, or will she finally seize what is hers for a world that has always belonged to men? Okay, so this comes out in June, and I know you can only fit so much into a novel's publicity material, but you'll notice one thing that was missing from what we read about the moment of truth, and that is the mind-numbing barbarity of bullfighting. So we're asked to concentrate on this young woman's personal and social dilemma, and I'm really looking forward to a day when a bullfighting novel will not be about such trivialities, but will instead concentrate on the systematic and ritualized torture of the people in the ring. Let's see here. Oh, okay. This is a slim volume of poetry. This is Falling Ill, last poems by C.K. Williams. So this will be another candidate to send to our poetry person. This goes out at the very beginning of January. I've had the review copy for it for some time. I don't think I've sent it out yet, so now I feel bad about that. I liked it very much. I studied him for a bit with the intent of doing a long piece that never actually materialized, and ended up liking his poetry quite a bit. Plus, you gotta love a poet who's been played by James Franco. That's only about 6. All right, the next one is short essays by J.D. Daniels called The Correspondence. I've actually already read this, and it's a tough thing for me. It was a tough divide. The prose in this little book is superb, electrically good. And every single last little molecule of sentiment that prose conveys is stupid in the extreme. Stupid. Guy, old school, here's what it means to be a man, catch with your dad, dive bars in the afternoon, kind of absolute boring, time-wasting, that it's hard to believe someone smart enough to craft the prose about it wouldn't find it a complete waste of time. I remember what I did with people like this guy when I was in my 20s and 30s, because I had no patience for that kind of crap then any more than I do now. And what I would do with those kind of people in my mid-20s and 30s was find a pretext in the middle of their babble about two-fisted living and how you've always got to, if you're a man, you've always got to be unhappy, you've always got to feel like crap, and you've always got to treat everyone else like crap and hate yourself for doing it. I would find someone in the middle of a barroom soliloquy like that, I'd find a pretext to invite them outside, and I would dismantle them like a Lego set. Hoping that experience, the experience of laying flat on their back, bleeding from 6 different places because an old ugly guy just tore you apart like a toy set, will change their attitude, will cure them of the stupid machismo attitude that is wasting so much of their time. It probably never did. It probably never will. It probably won't for this guy either. He will probably end up like all of the others. And you might think that all of the others end up the way the god of all their idolatries did, Ernest Hemingway, where one day you drink all morning, find the courage, put a shotgun in your mouth, and have a picturesque ending. But that's not how they end up at all. C.K. Williams didn't end up that way. They never end up that way. That's not how they end up. They end up crying pitifully in the intensive care ward of their local low-rent hospital because their liver's giving out. And they've changed color, and they've got papery skin and watery eyes. That's the ending they buy for themselves with this ridiculous nonsense. God help us. I have faced bored teenagers with rifles. I have faced rhinos who saw me clearly and were not happy with what they saw. I have faced land walking and land running crocodiles who noticed me and wanted to do something about it. And I've never once strutted in the way these idiots do about it. Yeah, you got it. It's all about the whiskey. You know, I hate it. Gotta do it though. Guy's gotta do what a guy's gotta do. It's getting the blood pumping now. Let's move on. Before I punch the camera. It's just, I don't want to hear a lecture from any douche canoe about what it means to be a man. Have you lost anything you couldn't live without? Much less 100 things you couldn't live without? Have you made compromises that felt terrible but were done for noble reasons? Have you sat by someone's bedside when they died of pain? Not in pain, but of pain? Have you done any of those things? Or have you just postured in bars in South Philly? All right, let's move on to this lovely little novel. This is How It Always Is by Laurie Frankel, and it has the peelings of an orange on the cover, which is also orange. uh, this is how a family keeps a secret, and how that secret ends up keeping them. This is how a family lives happily ever after, until happily ever after becomes complicated. This is how children change, and then change the world. Okay. All right, so upper middle class Connecticut divorce. Let's see here. This is the author of The Atlas of Love. Okay, well, that got a lot of play. And Goodbye for Now. So the question you got to ask, this is an author who knows what she's doing. Doesn't matter what the cover jacket person. The cover jacket person had seen one too many rom-coms before they wrote that. The key question now is entirely about the book. Okay, so you've been led up the river by the PR, but the author's biography says that she has written novels. So, she's in the game. So let's see. Let's just pick a page at random and see what we get. And when she was done, stopped fighting back, stopped struggling, stopped moving even, they just left her. They thought maybe she was just hurt and would get up and limp home soon enough. They thought maybe she'd had enough, and they were doing her a kindness by leaving her alone finally. They thought nothing at all. They were drunk and tired and ready now, after all the excitement of the evening, to go to sleep. They went inside and turned off their lights and slept like the guiltless. They did not hear the sirens. They did not hear the police banging on the front door. They did not hear their lives changing forever as well. Okay, well, that's really good. So this is a perfect time to take the dust jacket off the book and just read it like it came that way, as they all should. Let's move on here on this little emotional roller coaster ride of a mail hole. What's this next thing? Oh, good. I was hoping for the finished copy of this. This was really good. This was really good. This is by David Osborne. It's called The Coming. It's a big historical novel with an incredibly boring cover. Let me read you a bit of it. It tells the expansive, tragic story of native white relations in the American West through the fictionalized account of a lifetime of Daytime Smoke, who was born in 1807, was the real-life son of William Clark and an Indian woman. Little is known about him, but what is clear is that his life spanned an incredibly troublesome time in American history. Though largely celebrated in American history books, the expedition of Lewis and Clark and their Corps of Discovery began a process that brought disease, war, and genocide to the Native American tribes. Daytime Smoke lived through this era, from first contact to conquest. And Osborne says, his life bookended a story I knew to be both incredible and heartbreaking. I was impressed by the book. I will read this finished copy again. And this comes out in early February. Okay, so meaty historical fiction. But you notice, still no actual bullseye of a Steve's book. Maybe we aren't going to have one, even it's such a big thing. Maybe I'll put all my hopes on the box. I mean, I'll read all these things. I'll probably end up loving half of them. But let's see what we have here. Okay, we've seen this before. This is yet another copy of, there's more historical fiction, yet another copy of The Spartan Dagger, which comes out on the last hour of the last day of 2016. And we're actually excavating enough packages here so we can make room for these things. Let's barrel right on. Oh, God. Okay. This is due in January. This is Washington's Farewell by someone named John Avalon, who's probably not the Johnny Avalon who led a dreamy doo-wop group in the 50s. The Founding Fathers' warnings to future generations is going to be about the farewell address, where the doddering, eyesight failing Washington warned Americans to steer clear of foreign entanglements. So is this guy an arch-conservative think tank tool? Is that why they're usually the only people who reference that off-the-cuff, dashed-off comment by a doddering old Washington about something that is totally impossible? Isolationism is totally impossible. Not only stupid, but totally impossible, and it has been for a long time. There's no wisdom. Washington never said anything that had any wisdom in it, even by accident, ever. Hardly ever said anything that was true. Ever. Cannot tell a lie. If he'd walked into a room in the dark, stubbed his toe, and said, "God damn it, that hurt," I'd x-ray him to find out if he was lying. Let's see what Johnny Avalon's done since he gave up his musical career. He's editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast. Woohoo. How's that for a lead? And the CNN political analyst. He's the author of Independent Nation and Wingnuts, as well as an editor of the anthology Deadline Artists, Americans' Great Newspaper Columns. I read that. Okay. He was chief speechwriter for New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and won the National Society of Newspapers Columnist Award for Best Online Column in 2012. Okay, that's all over the map then, isn't it? He edited an anthology I really liked, but he was the chief speechwriter for a man who got up at the Republican National Convention and said that until the presidency of Barack Obama, there had never been a successful radical Islamist attack on American soil. The mayor of New York City on 9/11 got up in front of the National Republican Convention and said that. But this guy was his speechwriter before then. And also, the Society of Newspaper Columnists, they don't give their awards lightly. I'll have to look into this guy. But it doesn't matter. I'll have to look into him to check his own writerly bona fides, but you cannot write a good book on this subject. Gary Wills couldn't do it. This guy can't do it. Trying to gild the lily of the nation's founding moron. Let's just move on, shall we? Okay. This is something we've seen on this channel before. This is The Dry by Jane Harper, a really good novel set in Australia. Of course, it was 300 videos ago, so you might not remember me saying that. Here, let's see if we can get something to read to you. Since there's 2,000 of you who joined me since then. This winter, everyone will be keeping warm with Jane Harper's taut, crackling novel of a small town secrets buried beneath the scorching sun. Will they really, Seymour? You think so, do you? Saw that in your crystal ball? Jane's debut first garnered attention when an early draft of the book won the 2015 Victorian Premier's Literary Award for an unpublished manuscript, an award whose past winners include The Rosie Project. Months later, Reese Witherspoon's production company, Pacific Standard, snapped up the film rights to The Dry. Okay, so those of you who are in Australia, is that thing that I just read, the Victorian Premier's Literary Award, is that an Australian thing? And is it a big Australian thing? Is it a good Australian thing? Please, in the comments field, let me know. I don't like being intellectually undressed. Now people can't stop talking about the book. Will you please? I will tell you when people can't stop talking about a book. Don't tell me. Publishers Weekly named The Dry one of the top 10 mystery thrillers in the fall of 2016, and the novel has already received 3-starred trade reviews. So that would be Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, and Library Journal. They could start reviews from all 3. That's rare. But there can't be anything else. Trade journals, that's what you're talking about, those 3. Federal agent Aaron Falk never thought he'd go back home. Falk and his father were run out of a small town of Kiewara. Is that Australian? Certainly sounds it. 20 years ago when he was accused of murder. The only thing that saved him from prosecution was his alibi, that he had been with his best friend, Luke. But now, Luke's dead, and 3 simple sentences summoned Falk back to Kiewara. Luke lied, you lied, be at the funeral. And the book is incredibly good, and Australia feels like a character in the novel. It's so incredibly evoked. I highly recommend it. All right, let's move on. This one's from UPS, not anybody else. Another novel. Okay, this comes out on the 4th of July. It's called The Lake, and it's by Lottie and Soren Hammer. I really wish my name were Soren Hammer. Can you imagine? In the lake, the remains of a young Nigerian woman are found by a hunting dog near a lake in the Norge's land that the locals have nicknamed Satan's Bog. No one knows who this woman is, and no one has reported her missing. After the local police fumble the investigation and the dead-end case catches the attention of the public, Conrad Simonson, the intrepid head of the Copenhagen homicide team, is called in. Okay, so Lottie and Soren are a sister and brother from Denmark. She worked as a nurse, and he was trained as a teacher. And they've written a series of thrillers together. Isn't that fun? And this is translated by Charlotte Barsland. Okay, so this comes out in the summer, a long time from now. I might forestall reading it until closer to the day. Believe it or not, we're actually approaching the end. We've got one more, and then the box. This thing, nice and big. Okay. At long last, a Steve book. This is the complete gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt. Isn't that nice? It's an oversized thing from Thames and Hudson. Oh, and it's full of color and graphs and timelines and whatnot. Oh my, how lovely. Look at that. And here's Adrian from Strip Cover Lit before he's had his coffee. Or maybe after. Oh my, look at this. This is lovely. Okay, so it goes through every god and goddess, and it goes through every time period, and it gives us all the artwork. This must have been so expensive to make. And this comes out at the end of January. Is this maybe the companion to an art exhibit? No. Now available for the first time in paperback. First time in paperback, now available. That's not good. So when did this originally come out? It's got a blurb from... Oh, God help us. This is 2003. Soiled just touching it. All right. I thought it was a Steve book, and it was a Steve book about 50 years ago. That leaves the box. What an emotional roller coaster this is. Let's see what's in here. Might save the day, maybe not. Oh, okay, well... It's not likely to save the day, but it is nice. It's science fiction. It's paperback science fiction, which I wish I got more of it. The people at Angry Robot send me stuff like this. Ballantine, Tor, and Del Rey do not, and so I'm always happy to see them. So this is VN by Madeline Ashby. This is a mass-market paperback science fiction novel. How wonderful. Amy Peterson is a von Neumann machine, hence VN, a self-replicating humanoid robot. The first 5 years, she has been grown slowly as part of a mixed organic-synthetic family. She knows very little about her android mother's past, so when her grandmother arrives and attacks them, young Amy wastes no time. She eats her alive. Sounding more and more Boston Irish Catholic all the time. Now she's on the run, carrying her malfunctioning granny as a portion of her memory drive. She's growing quickly and learning too. Okay. All right, I'm sold. I'll read it. Let's see here. Okay, so this next one is by James Moore, and it's called The Last Sacrifice, I think. Last Sacrifice is big letters. There's also a title, The Tides of War. I can't stand it when books have multiple titles, but that's okay. Won't ranted enough in this video. Let's see here. Since time began, the Grakhul, immortal servants of the gods, who choose who lives and who dies when it comes time to make sacrifices to their deities, have been seeking to keep the world in balance and the gods appeased. When they seized the family of veteran warrior Brogan McTire, oh God, it's a fantasy land, but they still haven't been able to shake off Scotsmen. To offer as sacrifice, however, everything changes. Brogan rounds up his troops and heads off on a quest to save his family from the Grakhul. The decision this time is costlier than they could ever have expected, leading to Brogan and his king being hunted as criminals and the gods seeking to punish those who would dare to defy them. Exhilaratingly dark fantasy from the popular author of the Seven Forges novels, these are the Tides of War. Okay. It's kind of a nice cover. This creature at the top, and then a band of people racing away at the bottom. And then the last one is Jen Williams, The Iron Ghost. It's very chilly. We're in a blessedly non-chilly little envelope here in Boston. I'm dreading what January and February have to bring, but so far, the end of December is going out like a lamb. Let's see here. Widrin of Crosshaven, Sir Sebastian, and Lord Aaron Frith are experienced in the perils of stirring up the old gods. Again with the old gods. They are also familiar with defeating them, and the heroes of Bane's Watch are now enjoying perks and suddenly being very much in demand for their services. When a job comes up in a distant city of Scald's Hollow, it looks like an easy coin. Retrieve a stolen item, admire the view, get paid. But in a place twisted and haunted by ancient magic, and the most infamous mage of them all making a reappearance, our heroes soon find themselves threatened by enemies on all sides, old and new. And in the frozen mountains, the stones are walking. Okay. The Iron Ghost is... Do we know who this author is when he's at home? Looks like the next one in the series is The Copper Promise. Oh, Jen Williams is not a he. That's how you get in trouble on BookTube. She lives in London with her partner and their cat. She started writing about pirates and dragons as a young girl and has never stopped. Her short stories have featured in numerous anthologies, and she was nominated for Best Newcomer in the 2015 British Fantasy Awards. Okay, she's brand new. Maybe this is her first book. In which case, The Copper Promise would be the sequel. Huh. Okay. I'll have to look it up and see. So, a fantasy novel, The Iron Cross, and you'll notice something these two have in common. These authors probably don't know each other. No doubt they were working on their books in complete isolation. I'd be surprised to find out that they were part of the same local writing workshop, for instance. And yet you notice underneath the very dissimilar plots something very similar. Old style, Greek, Norse style gods. Gods who have the name God, but are not even conceptually Christian. Not all-knowing, not omnipotent, local, provincial gods. Supernatural beings who call themselves deities, but can be defeated and defied by humans. I think that's very interesting. And that has been on the rise. The number of fantasy novels that have featured a premise like that, you see it in all of the really popular fantasy series that are going right now, and who knows how popular these will be. The rise of fantasy series that have some element of that in their basic premise, the fallibility of gods, the smallness of them, that rise is almost exactly timed and almost in exact proportion with the decrease in organized religious attendance in the West, especially the same countries. I think it's fascinating. I don't think you could have just casually written a popular fantasy novel in the 1940s for a wide audience that featured fumbling, petty, limited gods. You would have had to call them something else. I could be wrong about that. I'm sure that there are examples, but I think it's fascinating that theme keeps cropping up. These kinds of gods. These are not the only books that I've seen that had it. But anyway, so we end with a blast of science fiction. Now, I don't know if I can hold all these things up. Unfortunately, there was no Bullseye Steve book, but this one might have been it. But it's as old as the hills, so who cares about it? But then we have The Lake, The Dry, Washington's Farewell, The Coming, This Is How It Always Is, The Correspondence, Falling Ill by C.K. Williams, which would probably be the first thing I read in this batch, a book about the trials and tribulations of a female matador, because it's really hard to deliver the 15 bloody coup de graces after 15 mortal wounds have been inflicted on a helpless animal by the picadors. Once that animal is dripping blood all over the sand and staggering, can't lift its neck, can't really see clearly because it was also drugged before it entered the arena, and it staggers in your direction, well, Then you have to decide, I mean, my boyfriend left me, my mentor is taking all my money. I've got so many things on my mind. I'm kind of distracted while I'm slaughtering this innocent animal who's not here for any reason of his own. Sorry. And then this is the ritual. Irish short stories, American originality, essays about poetry, Hungarian fiction, and the Spartan Dagger, which comes out in 2016. So that's a nice big mail haul and a nice long video. Oh my god, the video is so long. Sorry about that, BookTube. I'll go for now. Thank you.